Hey gaming fans, so today's just another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile of a fun deck that I came up with involving Necroface and Inferno Tempest to, I guess, deck your opponent out or pretty much make them run out of cards or resources. So yeah, let's get to the deck profile. So for the first monster, the Necroface, this is what is making the deck possible. And it's, now that it's at 3, because this card for the longest time was at 2. And so this deck was probably, it wouldn't have worked. But now that it's at 3, and what Necroface does is when he's banished, each player removes the top 5 cards from their deck from play. And so you can imagine when you get all 3 of them banished, that's 15 cards off your deck. So for more monster support and draw power, I put in Cyber Volley, which is also stall in a sense. And so what Cyber Volley does is if your opponent attacks, you can instead banish him to draw a card and end the battle phase. Or during your turn, you can, if he's on the field and you have another monster, you can banish both of them and draw 2 cards. And then it's got like a third effect. I don't think I ever use it. You can target 1 card in your graveyard, banish this card and 1 card from your hand, then place them on top of your deck. I don't use that effect. Really just for the draw power and the stalling. And, you can if you want. If you get Necroface on the field, you can banish Necroface and there goes 5 cards as well. But we don't need to rely on that. Unless you've been stalling and your opponent's running out of cards. 3 Battle Fader, keep you alive again. You also use him for the fodder for your Cyber Volley, so you keep an open field, your opponent attacks, you drop the Fader, and then on your turn you summon Cyber Volley, and then you get to draw 2 cards. And then for the combo part of this deck, I put in a bunch of Kaijus. So we got this guy, which is Kaiju. It's a weird one, the Star Destroying Kaiju. The only thing that, I don't really work on their effects, it's just the fact that you can send it over to their opponent's side of the field. And it's, this guy's 3,300 attack, so is this guy, and then these guys are 3,000. And that's the Dogorian, the Mad Flame Kaiju. So they all have to be 3,000 or higher to work with your Inferno Tempest. Which I will be showing you next. So I put 3 of the 3,300 and 2 of the 3,000, just to make things easier for yourself when you try to go for your Inferno Tempest play. So that's the monster count. That's, pretty small monster count. So now on to the actual other part of the combo, and that's Inferno Tempest. If you're not familiar with this card, when you take 3,000 or more battle damage from 1 attack, and you could activate this card, remove all monsters in each player's deck and graveyard from play. So what's going to happen is you're going to remove all 3 Necrofaces and all monsters from your opponent's deck at the same time. So what's going to happen is all their monsters are going to disappear, and 15 of their spell and trap cards, because their monsters will be gone. So these will take care of the spell and trap cards, and at that point, your opponent probably will have no deck left. That's the plan. I mean, obviously, depending on the kind of deck your opponent is playing, if it's all monsters or whatever, and of course, there is a caveat here. If your opponent's playing like a 60-card deck, maybe they'll have more ratio of another card or something in there, or that, they'll still be alive. The only thing is they won't have their monsters, so it'll be very tricky depending on what they have left on the field. And then just some draw power, so I put in, oops, sorry about that, I put in Upstart Goblin, 1 Day of Peace, because you don't really care about life points in this deck, so you'll give them 1,000 life points to get your extra draw. 1 Day of Peace is fine, you want them to draw a card, because you're trying to deck them out. Same thing with Hand Destruction. You can get rid of some of your duplicate cards that you don't need. Some excess stuff that's, if you drew 2 Inferno Tempests, you can pitch 1, because you only need 1 to make the combo work. And again, with Dark World Dealings, I got 2 of those. So hand destruction is each player sends 2 cards from their hand in the graveyard to draw 2 cards, and then Dark World Dealing is each player draws 1 card and then discards 1 card. So, you know, again, your opponent's drawing. And then I thought, to get rid of anything that could be on the field that's just, you know, stubborn, like if your opponent put something down that's going to stop your play, I put in 2 Spiritualism. It's an interesting kind of spell and trap removal in a sense. It doesn't destroy it, it bounces it back to the hand, kind of like a mini Trunade. You can return 1 spell or trap on your opponent's side of the field to the owner's hand. Now the reason why I chose this is because the rest of the text says the card's activation and effect cannot be negated by any other card. So you can pretty much play this with, you know, not fear of it being negated. And then for the actual other part of the combo, we have Hippo Carnival, and that gets us our tokens. There's 0/0 tokens that you slam into one of these big guys to get your 3,000 damage play for your Inferno Tempest. And of course goats as well. Now keep in mind too, if you manage to get a Battle Fader onto the field, you could use that to slam into one of these 3,000 attackers as well. Or, you know, to some extent, Cyber Valley. And that's it for these spells. Let's get on to the traps. So I play quite a few traps in this deck as well, mostly to try and protect your plays and to get your opponent to draw cards. So we got Dark Bribe, so disrupt their spells, and if they try and stop your plays with anything that could negate a spell or a trap, you can Dark Bribe it. This one as well, Recall. My friend actually showed me this card. I didn't know it existed. It's pretty much Dark Bribe, but it negates a monster effect. So when your opponent activates a monster effect, your opponent draws 1 card, and then you negate the activation and destroy it. So it's pretty much the equivalent of Dark Bribe, but for monster effects. Now, the thing is, a lot of these cards I've been showing you force your opponent to draw cards. So I put in 2 Appropriates, which pretty much, you get this sucker out, you're going to be drawing a lot of cards, because every time your opponent draws 1 card, you get to draw 2 cards. So when you play your Dark World Dealings, for instance, you draw a card, you draw a card, and then your opponent draws a card, and then you draw 2 more cards. Like with Hand Destruction, the same thing, 1 Day of Peace, and any of these traps, pretty much they all get your opponent to draw a card. And that's outside of the opponent actually playing any cards, like pot of whatever, to draw a card. You know, there's a bunch of different pot cards. And then to increase the draw capacity of this deck, I threw in 3 Reckless Greeds, because this is a combo deck. You need to get to your combo pieces really fast. You need to get your Hippo tokens. You need to get your Inferno Tempest, because there's no way to search this card out in this deck. There's nothing to search it, so you pretty much just have to draw it. That's why I play 3 copies of it, because once you get your setup, this deck just goes off. And like I said, your play would probably be, you would tribute off one of their monsters for probably this guy, the 3,000 one, to their side of the field. I'll just move that over there. So you tribute one of their monsters, so they got a 3K. Now that's of course, there's also a possibility your opponent might already have a 3K monster out in today's format. You won't even have to deal with it. But anyways, yeah, so you could take either a Scapegoat, a Hippo, or you can throw, like I said, one of your Battle Faders and slam it into this guy, drop your Inferno Tempest, and your combo just goes off. All your Necrofaces are banished, all the monsters are gone, and 15 cards are gone. And then you just end your turn and you wait to see what your opponent does. There really is, you know, there's not much more you can do in this deck. Sure, there's a lot of flaws that, you know, if your opponent's not playing monsters for whatever reason, you're not going to be able to get your combo off. There could be some other things that could be, I mean, there's another thing I thought of as well, is that if you use this guy, the 3K one, you can always summon your 3,300 one and kill it. Because another problem you're always going to have is whatever monsters your opponent has on the field will remain there. Inferno Tempest only removes cards from the deck and the graveyard. So whatever's in play stays in play. So you get your 3K 3300 beater out there, and hopefully you can stick around if your opponent still has some cards left in their deck. That's about it. Anyways, let me know what you think of the combo. It's kind of a fun. I know there's a bunch of different kinds of combos that work off of this. It used to be Grinder Golem, which is now banned from tournament, because he was a single card set up for this deck. He would summon himself to your opponent's side of the field, and then summon a 0 attack token to your side of the field. So it kind of, you didn't need the Kaijus at that point. But I just figure using the Kaijus, at least it gives you some of their plays. And if your opponent's not really cooperating, at least you can kill their monsters and start attacking with a Kaiju. So if anything fails, you got this as a backup plan. Anyways, hope you liked the deck. Throw some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.